Groundbreaking theatre, and there is an active intelligence in Johaardien's writing, and he has a sharp ear for the dialogue of the street. He neatly counterbalances the serious and the humorous. Well, these are some ways that newspapers such as The Independent Online and Cape Argus have used to describe award-winning play SALAAM Stories. The production heads to the Theatre Arts Admin in Cape Town from the 4th to the 9th of March, and its writer, who is a multi-award-winning playwright, performer, as well as arts manager, Ashraf Johaardien, joins us now to tell us more. Ashraf, it's great to have you on the show. Very good morning. Thanks for making the time.
Good morning. Thank you.
The inspiration behind SALAAM Stories, what was it?
You know, I worked at the Baxter Theatre before I started university, all the way through university while I was studying drama. And what was very disappointing to me was the stories that I saw on stage did not reflect my own life and my own experience. And it was really trying to write into that gap that I wanted to start telling my stories, the stories of my people. And trying to do that, I realized how little I knew. And I started doing some research. And it was just extraordinary that there is this whole unwritten history of the Cape Malays, which I came across, and a lot of the community is not necessarily aware of that. Certainly it's not documented. It's starting to be documented now, but the play is almost 2 decades old, and I'm very pleased to say when I saw Ashlynn Singh, who's now taken over the performance, do the work earlier this week at St. Martin's, I was really just so happy to see that it's still so relevant, that there still is a need for these stories to be told. And I really enjoyed, again, having my own story reflected back at me. And I hope that the audiences in Cape Town will see that again, because it is very much a Cape Town play.
I mean, a story like this, when you speak about a certain culture or a religious group, or any group in particular where people are involved, there are many themes and issues that you know, would come up, and perhaps that you have highlighted in this play. What are some of those thorny issues that you've had to delve into? Well,
you know, one of the things is really the notion of land, who owns the land, where we are in this land, where we come from, who we are. Very topical issues, not only in this country at the moment, but globally. So really trying to understand the story of how we came to be where we are and who we are is everyone's story. So I think it's pretty universal. I started with a very personal story, though, which was really trying to remember my father who had passed. I started writing the play after my dad had passed. And he was a tailor, and together with my sister, I started this monologue about Haji Taylor, because that's what people affectionately used to call my father. And in writing that very regional, local, intensely personal story, I started opening up for myself, and I think for an audience, the whole history of an entire community in Cape Town. And that community is not just landlocked in Cape Town. Cape Town Muslims found their way throughout South Africa, and in fact, the whole Muslim diaspora is as diverse as all of the people in Cape Town. So again, it tells a very particular story of a very particular people in a very particular time. But I've really enjoyed that an Afrikaans woman in Stellenbosch could relate to the story, that people in New York after 9/11 responded in the same way, that there's a kind of universal appeal in these characters. Really what I was trying to do was to pay tribute to the people I recalled from my childhood. So it's very much a meditation on my own life, my own childhood. And the pleasure of having done the work is that I seem to have been able to strike a chord in so many people, because they recognize these aunties, these uncles, these dads, these brothers, these sisters. So it is very much about community. It's very much about how we grow up, how the people around us make us who we are, and how the stories that we are told as children become our narrative as adults. And this is the life story that we start to actually play out in our lives. So it's been really an experience which has changed who I am as a person.
And so, as you said, to go back into your community to try and uncover what it is that made you as a part of a whole of this community, what would you say are some of the misconceptions that you uncovered that people have or may have had around the Muslim community?
Well, I think, you know, a tipping point was 9/11. Obviously, you know, the whole axis of evil thing. And because in Cape Town, there's always been quite a mix between Muslims, Christians, people from all walks of life. And Cape Town Muslims, Cape Malays have very smartly resolved the tension that lives between having grown up in a Western world and coming from a Southeast Asian, sometimes conservative culture. So marrying those two worlds is not an easy task. And we've had 300 years of practice, and I think that's something that we can offer people. And it was really trying to write into resolving that tension because, you know, often I forget that what I look like, what I wear, will signal to people a certain sort of something. I mean, I grew up in this country, I grew up in this land, the story that I know is of now. But again, researching and understanding the history, how people got here, took me back to the South African slave trade, understanding that there is a very complex and layered history that we really need to unearth and pay tribute to. And this is an important thing that we need to do continuously. You don't just do it once, and you don't just write a play or write a book. It's something that we actively have to work on all the time. And again, to activate our communities, to conscientize people, to be active, to be mindful, to be present, and to find a way to do it that is entertaining and engages people.
Let's quickly talk about Ashlynn Singh, and he's the lead. Or what does he bring to the story?
So Ashlynn is not Muslim, which is interesting, but again, he inhabits this character so beautifully. I was actually a little bit jealous watching him because I really think he performs the play so much better than I do. The audience was completely captivated by him. Ashlynn and I know each other from having worked together at the Wits Theatre, where I did a version of the play where Ashlynn was a performative stagehand. So he's actually been on stage with me in the work. There have been several incarnations of Salaam over the last 19, 20 years, and he's been connected to a couple of those. He was also... he supported me the last time I did the work in 2014 at the National Arts Festival. So he really has also, you know, years and years of knowing the story. And it's so lovely listening to him because he really brings the sound. For me, it's very important that the play sounds like what it should sound like. And he's a charming and charismatic performer. He's worked with John Carney. He's done some amazing television work. He's currently an educator, a teacher, but also a phenomenal performer. And another lovely thing about Salaam is, for a solo performer, it's a really fantastic showcase to show your skills because he plays something like 20 characters, and the ease with which he does it is just remarkable to behold. And that's the theatrical magic. It's not me, it's the performer who breathes life into all of these characters.
That's amazing. Now, the Standard Bank Award alumni, Jade Bow, she sits in the production mentor's chair.
Yes.
How has that been like for you? Do you feel like you've given away a certain level of control?
Not at all. I worked with Jade, has been my creative counterpart for almost 15 years. I had actually taken a break from performing, and Jade sort of took me out of my hibernation, and we revived Salaam for the 10th year anniversary. And it's been amazing I worked with her to rework the solo version. We toured it a little bit. In fact, we toured it nationally as well, about 7 years ago. And the last time we did it together was in 2014. And it's just been wonderful to watch her sort of stretch her wings on it. And now, you know, a Standard Bank young artist is mentoring a new person. Nikita Hartley is my niece, who was in the original production when she was 14 years old. She was born on 9/11, and it's been wonderful to watch Jade take Nikita under her wing, and for Nikita to step into the role of director and producer. So it's been actually quite a moving and important experience for me, and I hope for them as well.
Ashraf, very well done. That's where we'll have to leave it for the morning. I think Nigel Formas was right when he said SALAAM Stories is no religious tract. It's a carefully constructed cultural entertainment. And I can feel that the intention was not to ever make it religious, but to strike that important balance where the story is told, and on the other hand, that everyone can relate to the characters that are on showcase. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
Well, Ashraf Johaardien, who's a multi-award-winning playwright, performer and arts manager, speaking to us about his award-winning play SALAAM Stories, which runs at the Theatre Arts Admin in Cape Town from the 4th to the 9th of March, and then at Pop Art in Johannesburg from the 14th to the 17th of March. Get your tickets and go see it. Time for us to go back to Simpiwe.